Hello and welcome to your online group class orientation. We are so excited to start class with you guys soon. My name is Breanne Harris and I am the owner and head trainer here at Positive Partners Dog Training, LLC. I teach private and group lessons, mostly focusing on dogs that are reactive or rowdy. I like to say they're in the Big Feelings Club. I've been training dogs professionally since 2015 and I'm a member of many of the top dog training organizations in the country. Notably, I am a certified professional dog trainer knowledge assessed. I am an evaluator for all AKC tests, including Canine Good Citizen, Star Puppy, and Trick Dog titles, and I'm also an evaluator for the Alliance of Therapy Dogs. I do hold a BS in psychology from Appalachian State University as well. As far as pets go, the only pets that live with me are my guinea pigs, Dolly and June. Here on the slide, you'll see in the middle, the Great Pyrenees Knox. He is what got me started in dog training, and he taught me a lot of lessons throughout his life. He did pass in 2020. And then on the right, you'll see Brody. He is a Basset Hound Lab mix. I like to say that he might not be my dog, but I am his human. And he lives at the farm that I work at part-time. And he's my little shadow, and we do a lot of training together. Depending on what class you're taking, Eli Chamberlain may be your instructor. Eli, like myself, holds a BS in psychology from Appalachian State University and is a certified professional dog trainer knowledge assessed. Eli is also a certified fear-free professional and brings years of experience training dogs, working in doggy daycare and boarding, and has even worked in grooming salons. Eli's passion is working with puppies and young adult dogs and helping teach them and their humans lifelong skills. Between the two of us, we have over 15 years of experience working with dogs of all breeds, ages, and challenges. Now, before we get too into training, we have to start with making sure that we're meeting our dog's needs. Most of us are doing our best to meet our dog's needs based on the information and advice we've gathered throughout the years, but we might not be sure if we're doing it properly. And believe it or not, a lot of problem behaviors I see are a result of unmet or poorly met needs. All the training in the world isn't going to help you if your dog has unmet needs that are stopping your training from progressing. So take a quick look at this list. Do you know what all these needs are? Do you feel confident that you know how to meet all of these needs? We're going to talk more about each one of these throughout our classes, but I do always want to cover a few quick points with all of my new students. The first one is making sure that our dogs are getting adequate sleep. A lot of problem behaviors that we work with are usually a result of a dog that is getting too little sleep and maybe even too much exercise. Sometimes people come to us and their puppies are biting them like crazy and they're just streaking through the house and just being little hellions and they think they need to train them and they need to exercise them and all of these things. And oftentimes those problems are coming because the puppy is just absolutely exhausted and they're not getting the rest they need. So I always start there. For puppies under a year old, they need 16 to 18 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. And that's a lot of sleep, but it's critical for their development. Adult dogs also need between 14 and 16 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. It's a lot of rest, but it really makes a difference if your dog is getting the right amounts of rest. It's also important that they are getting sleep in the right kind of increments or patterns. So we don't want to just keep our dogs awake all day long and then think they'll sleep 14 hours overnight. We do want to make sure that they're taking naps throughout the day. The other thing, like I mentioned, is also appropriate exercise. And there's no real formula for exercise, but generally for puppies 8 months or younger, we kind of want to shoot for 15 minutes of exercise just once a day. And as puppies enter into later adolescence and into adulthood, they may need 20 to 30 minutes of exercise 1 to 2 times a day. And like I said, there's no exact science there, so you may just need to experiment a little bit. If you have any questions, Eli or myself are happy to answer them and help you figure out what's best for you and your dog. The last thing I want to touch on for this slide is breed considerations. So every breed of dog we know has been bred for a very specific purpose. So if you're running into problems with your dog, or you're thinking about your long-term goals and things you want them to achieve in their lifetime, it's really important that you research their breed and understand what were they bred for, what are their personalities likely to be like, and what challenges you might face. So training and learning is going to be stressful for you and your dog. That's just the nature of the beast. So we like to make sure that we're training our dogs in a way that doesn't bring any extra pain, stress, fear, or anxiety into their lives. So we will be training using force-free methods. And this means that we set our dogs up for success by meeting their needs, like we just talked about. We also prevent problems as much as we can, and we focus on not putting them in situations that are too challenging. We want to challenge them just a little bit, but we're not going to go from walking, on a quiet side street to going down King Street as a whole parade's happening. We want to make sure we're taking our time and setting them up for success. This also means that we train using rewards. We will be using food. You can use your dog's kibble as a reward. We'll be using treats and toys and play and affection and praise and sniffing bushes. The possibilities are really endless. Anything that your dog enjoys can be used as a reward. We are going to be focusing on rewarding good behaviors and replacing bad behaviors. Using force-free training doesn't mean that we just let our dogs run rampant and that there's no rules or boundaries, but it does mean that we are putting the focus on making sure they know what they should do rather than just punishing them for doing things they shouldn't do, especially if they don't know any better. So mistakes are going to happen. It's just a part of life. So as pet parents, it's our job to guide and raise our dogs kindly. Again, we work to set our houses up so that our dogs can be successful. We'll use doggy gates or kennels, exercise pens, and all of that to protect them from dangers or from getting in trouble. We don't need to punish any behaviors that we think are bad. We can kindly interrupt the behavior and redirect our dog to a more appropriate outlet. Just saying no is not enough information. If you've got a dog that's jumping up on visitors, we want to replace that behavior with sitting for attention. If you have a dog that's chewing on the couch, we're going to interrupt that behavior and give them something better to chew on, or ask them to go lay down on their bed, or even put them in their crates for a nap. We're always making sure that we're guiding them into what they should do rather than just saying no. So how do dogs learn? Well, they learn a lot like we do. The primary way is by association or even by emotion. So a really easy to understand example is your dog's leash or harness. When you first bring your dog home, if they're a puppy, they've likely never had an experience on a leash, and the first time they see it, it doesn't mean anything to them. But if you put the leash on them and you take them for a walk and they have a great time, it's not going to take long before they see you grab the leash and get excited. The leash itself isn't really doing anything aside from restraining your dog, but it has become associated with fun walks. This can also happen on the flip side really, really easily. I had a dog a few years ago who the first time they had the harness on was to go to puppy class, and then they were super sick on the car ride there. They just got very car sick, and then they went to class, and then of course they had to ride home from class, and that was just as awful for them. So the next week when the harness came out, that puppy turned and ran, because even though the harness itself didn't make the puppy sick, as far as they were concerned, that harness was associated with the worst day of their life, and they thought the harness made them sick. They're always learning those associations. These associations happen quickly and easily, for better or worse. They will learn if an object or an action is associated with feeling happy and safe, or unsafe and scared, or any other emotional response. Dogs do also learn by consequences, just like we do. This little meme has always cracked me up. This dog, Dusty, found half a pie in this bush a month before this picture was taken, and now every day until the end of time, they have to closely inspect the magic pie bush, and their brains really do work like that. And honestly, yours would too. If you passed by a bush and one day you found $500 in that bush, you'd probably be checking every single bush you passed forever, because you just never know when you're going to hit that jackpot. So the example I always like to give people is if your dog jumps up on the stovetop and swipes a chicken breast, that is a really good consequence. They're very likely to do that again. Or on the flip side, if they jump up and burn their paw, that's a bad consequence that did not work out very well. So they are less likely to do that again in the future. The big thing to remember from all of that, though, is that dogs do what works. Everything your dog does, he does because it has made him feel safe and happy in the past, or because it has benefited them before. That's all you need to remember. Every behavior your dog does, they are doing because it benefits them somehow. And it's really important we remember that, so that when we are faced with behaviors that we would like to change, we can take a step back and try to think, what benefit is my dog getting? How are they getting rewarded? And see if we can flip that around to make it work for us. And that is also where our marker training comes into play. So we know that our dogs learn by association, and we know that we're going to be using food to reward them. So we want to make sure that when we're using rewards, they are associating the reward with the correct behavior. And the way we do that is through marker training. A marker is usually a sound. However, deaf animals can be trained with a flash of light or a thumbs up. Blind and deaf animals can even be trained with a touch signal on their heads or somewhere on their bodies. Marine mammal trainers often use whistles, and most dog experts use a clicker or their own voice. You guys are welcome to use clickers in class if you would like, but we typically will just use a verbal marker. So what this looks like is you ask your dog to sit, and as soon as their butt hits the ground, you're going to say yes, and you're going to hand them a treat. The reason this is important, that we're using this marker to precisely tell them the correct behavior, is a lot of things can happen really quickly, especially in dog training. So if your dog sits and then you just go to get a treat out of your pocket, and then they look at the dog next to them in class, or they stand up, or they turn around, and then you reward them, what are they really associating the reward with? It could have been any number of behaviors. But if your dog sits and as soon as their butt hits the ground, you say yes, you're letting them know that split second is exactly what I want, and I'm bringing you a treat. And it gives you about 3 to 5 seconds between the desired behavior and rewarding it. So it just really makes that training a lot more clear-cut for them. So we do have a few final tips before we keep going. And before we get there, I want to give you guys your first secret word. And your first secret word is whistle. Again, that secret word is whistle. So it is important to remember that every day counts. Every moment that you spend with your dog, they're learning something from you, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit. So try to do your best to make sure that it's good habits. It's also important that we keep sessions short. So you want to practice for 2 or 3 minutes at a time. One study has even shown that it's best to practice new skills just 2 to 3 times a week for 5 minutes or less, which is really great because that takes a lot of pressure off of training our dogs. When your dog is learning something new, we want to make sure that we're quick and generous when giving them rewards. We want to make sure that they're having a good time and that we're not asking too much of them. I always feel like if you're not feeling a bit silly at first, you're probably not doing it quite right. You want to be happy, upbeat, and most of all, we want to have fun. This shouldn't be a chore. This should be something that both you and your dog enjoy. As far as what types of treats we're feeding our dogs, we do want to make sure that our treats are small enough that our dog can quickly eat them, while also being big enough that they know they got something. For most dogs, picking something out that's about the size of a pea is perfect. You may need to, if you get larger treats, you're definitely going to want to cut them up into smaller pieces. Soft treats are often easier to eat and can be more appealing to our dogs. You do want to prep your treats ahead of time so that if you're short on time, it's easy for you to train. If you have to get your treats out and then cut them up before a training session, you're a lot less likely to get that training session done. I do suggest that you store your treats in small bags or containers so it's really easy to grab one and just get going training on the fly. Obviously, you want to pick something your dog likes. I use a lot of dog food kibble in my training. It's just really easy. It's already bite-sized, and then I know my dog is still getting a balanced diet. I will often pick a fishy flavored food because it just drives dogs crazy. Store-bought treats are also totally fine. And then when you're going to class or training out and about, make sure that you're bringing your dog's favorite treats. And then when you're doing something really challenging, you want to bring out the big guns. So cheese, hot dogs, chicken, and lunch meats are always fan favorites. We just want to make sure that we're using them in moderation. And don't forget, enrichment and exercise are really important for our dog's mental and physical well-being. So since we will be using a lot of food and treats in training, it is always wise to use a portion of our dog's meals as part of their reward budget for the day. However, a lot of our training is really active, and if you're still leading an active lifestyle with your dog, you shouldn't need to worry too much about them gaining weight or anything like that. Training is a very important part for our dog's well-being, but so is exercise and enrichment. Like I said earlier, a lot of us know that our dogs need around 20 minutes of exercise every day, and exercise is something that's elevating their heart rate. So walks, hikes, jogging, fetch, tug, frisbee, and interactive play are excellent ways to ensure that we are getting our dog's heart pumping. What most people don't know is that our dogs also need mental enrichment. Luckily, this is something that can be really easy to implement. You'll already be doing it with training. Doing training with your dog every day is going to be giving them some mental exercise. You can also feed them their meals from a Kong or a snuffle mat or a food puzzle like this dog here. You can even scatter some of their kibble in the yard for them to sniff around and find. You can hide it in the house. You can feed them raw bones or natural chew alternatives. All of these are great ways that we can engage our dog's brains, meet their natural needs as a dog, let them do normal doggy behaviors, and make their lives fuller. The best part of these enrichment activities is that they are really great ways to burn off excess energy without having to get outdoors. And as we know up here, that's a must-have. We know that the winter weather up here can be really bad, and we know in the summertime this is a temperate rainforest and we can get quite a bit of rain. So having some really nice enrichment activities that you can pull out whenever needed is a must-have. So please let us know if you have any questions or need suggestions on enrichment activities. And then congratulations, you now have the basic information you need to be the best pet parent ever. You're ready to train your dog with the most effective, fun, and humane techniques available. And your second secret word is going to be knocks. Again, your second secret word is knocks. And we can't wait to see you in class, and be sure to reach out with any questions you might have between now and then.